Hey, how's it going? Stephen Marcus here, and today I will be arguing that the People's Republic of China maintains the largest threat to the United States' national security interests. And this will be for History 660, Asymmetrical and Irregular Warfare, taught by Dr. Sean Carrington at Liberty University. So, the People's Republic of China represents the highest threat to the United States' national security today. While the United States has faced serious challenges from terrorism, regional instability, and revisionist powers, China stands apart because of the scale and structure of its rise. This is not simply about military growth, it is about the return to great power competition. China has developed the economic strength, technological capacity, and military modernization necessary to compete directly with the United States. At the same time, it uses cyber operations, economic influence, and gray zone tactics to shape the strategic environment below the level of open war. My argument is that China's ability to combine symmetrical military capabilities with asymmetrical and indirect methods make it the most comprehensive and long-term challenge to the United States national security. I will begin by explaining the strategic context and then walk you through how China reached this position and why it presents a unique threat today. And if you look on the cover page here, we have President Xi Jinping, Taiwan, which could be that location for a flashpoint possibly in the future, as well as the communist leader Chairman Mao Zedong. All right, and then as well as the logo for the People's Liberation Army. That's going to be the Chinese army. That this is going to be their logo, the flag, and so on. Move to slide 2. All right, so here's just an overview of what we're going to be looking at here. We have our key leaders, high value targets. So President Xi Jinping here. We got second in command, Minister of National Defense, Admiral Dong Jun. All right, he is somebody who is that basically like Pete Hegseth version, Secretary of War. And then we have the PLARF. That's going to be the People's Liberation Army of the Rocket Force Commander Wang Hubin. All right. Looking at this map over here, we're going to have major People's Liberation Army Rocket Force installations mapped out here. These are going to also be those obviously high-value targets. These are going to be the locations of missiles and also nuclear missiles as well. Be mindful though, their nuclear force is more vehicle oriented, so they do move about within the country. They're not stagnant like a missile silo. 5 warfare threats: naval expansion, symmetrical; nuclear and rocket force modernization, symmetrical; cyber operations, that those are going to be viewed as asymmetrical; economic coercion, BRI, asymmetrical; and then gray zone maritime pressure. We're going to talk about that later on, but that's hybrid. 5 major impacts: regional destabilization in Indo-Pacific, economic dependency and supply, chain vulnerability, cyber insecurity and IP loss, alliance strain, and also another impact is escalation risk with nuclear powers. So China's major strategic focus is in the Indo-Pacific, especially found around the Taiwan Strait, which is going to be down in this area right here. The South China Sea and the East China Sea. These areas are not just political talking points, they are places where U.S. alliances, military presence, and freedom of navigation directly collide with China's national goals. Under Xi Jinping, right here, China has built a coordinated strategy that includes naval growth, nuclear modernization, cyber operations, economic pressure, and gray zone maritime tactics. These efforts are not separate, they support each other. The consequences are serious. A crisis in Taiwan, down in this area right here, would disrupt global trade. Cyber attacks threaten America's infrastructure. Economic pressure can influence allied countries to be swayed either way. And then when taken together, China's strategy affects not just one region, but the overall global balance of power. Also, too, here is the logo for the PLARF. All right, so slide 3, strategic context, returning to great power competition. So in this course, symmetrical warfare is described as a conflict between powers with similar strength and capabilities. A possible U.S.-China conflict fits this model. That is very important. So after the Cold War, the United States operated with very little pure competition. military focus shifted towards terrorism and regional conflicts. However, the 2018 National Defense Strategy marked a clear return to great power competition, identifying China as the primary long-term challenge. This change reflects reality. China now has the ability to challenge U.S. military forces in the Indo-Pacific area through missile systems, naval expansion, and long-range strike capabilities. The United States is no longer operating with constraint. That shift defines today's strategic environment. So, as we progressed as a nation post World War II, obviously we went up against Soviet Union, Russia, and that was viewed as a symmetrical foe. Then, as the Soviet Union fell, the global war on terror, we shifted our strategy. All right, focused on countering terrorism. But then, as that theater shifted, and China, we saw China as a threat in 2018 National Defense Strategy. We are now focusing on countering China's global influence as they pose a significant threat to the United States. All right, slide 4. All right, historical strategic culture. So China's strategy today is influenced by its past. Mao Zedong promoted the idea of protracted warfare, which focused on patience, endurance, and slowly weakening a strong opponent over time rather than seeking quick battlefield victories. This is something that we read throughout this course earlier on. It's going to be Mao Zedong. It's spelled different in pinyin. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's Mao Zedong, but it could also be Situng. But guerrilla warfare, his stance and his tactics as he overthrew the Chinese nationalist army. All right. So even though modern China has advanced ships now and aircraft, that patience is still visible. Beijing often avoids direct confrontations and instead makes small, steady moves that build advantage over time. We see this in the South China Sea and in economic policy. China is not necessarily rushing towards conflict. It is positioning itself for long-term competition. So Mao was that one that overtook China. Rewind, China used to be an ally of the United States in World War II against the Japanese. Unfortunately, the communist regime took over that nationalist army. They were pushed out to Taiwan, and that's why Taiwan is a flashpoint, because Taiwan represents that last democratic or westernized Chinese government, and the Communist Party of China wants to take that back and bring it into their grasp. All right, so economic rise and foundation, strategic foundation. So China's rise began with economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, opening markets, encouraging foreign investments, and expanding exports, connecting China to the global economy. Joining the World Trade Organization in 2001 accelerated this growth. In 2002, by 2002, China's economy had grown to around 18 trillion. That economic strength funds military modernization, research, and global infrastructure projects. It also gives China's some political leverage, of course. The United States faces a complicated situation because China is both a major competitor and a key trade partner. Military strength depends on economic power, and China has built that foundation carefully over several decades. And you can see that in these images here, all right? And they just display, great infrastructure. So World Trade Organization entry in 2001, 18 trillion GDP, industrial dominance, military funding enabled. All right, so PLA modernization and structural reform. So beginning in 2016, Xi Jinping reorganized the People's Liberation Army to make it more modern and more effective. As you can see right here on the right-hand side at their military parade, they are showing and displaying looks like to be UAVs or unmanned aerial vehicles. This reform improved joint operations, streamlined command structures, and emphasized advanced technology. The PLA rocket force became an independent branch, highlighting the importance of missile and nuclear capabilities. China has expanded both conventional and nuclear missile forces to improve deterrence and precision strike ability. Xi has also set long-term goals for military modernization leading up to 2049. This shows that China's military growth is planned and deliberate, not reactive. And 1949 is an important, or 2049 is an important date because it is the 100th anniversary of the communist takeover of China, 1949. So rocket force independence, and then that goal set 2049 modernization goal, or you can see this or interpret this as like them being the number one superpower. All right, so we got naval and aerospace expansion. So China now has the largest navy in the world by number of ships. While numbers alone do not guarantee superiority, the growth is significant. Aircraft carriers, advanced destroyers, submarines, and anti-ship missiles expand China's reach. China's anti-access and area denial strategy is designed to make U.S. intervention, especially around Taiwan, more costly and more difficult. In the air domain, aircraft like the J-20, which is pictured down here, shows Chinese effort to close the technology gap with the United States. These developments move China from regional defense towards broader power projection. All right, and in my research, I have found that not only are they threatening militarily, I guess you could say they are threatening the influence in regards to the creation of F-35, or sorry, J-35, the Chinese model, and exporting that to other countries and selling them those military assets, which of course would include military influence for that country. Submarine expansion, J-20, J-35 development, and the contingency focus around Taiwan. All right, so here we go. Taiwan, the central flashpoint. So Taiwan is the most likely trigger for major conflict. From Beijing's view, Taiwan, as I mentioned before, is part of China, and reunification is tied to national pride and political legitimacy. China regularly conducts military exercises near Taiwan, including air and naval operations. These moves apply pressure without crossing into a full-scale conflict. For the United States, Taiwan is tied to credibility in the Indo-Pacific. A conflict it could quickly escalate between two nuclear powers and would severely impact global trade and alliance structures. So looking at this, here is Taiwan. If we look at this map, this is the Eastern Theater Command. There's other commands as well, I found. But this one is important because it's located right off the area of Taiwan. I guess you could look at the Southern Theater as well. But looking at all the different assets they have on the coastline here. All right, we got the Taiwan flag right here, and I always thought this was cool. This is one of the patches that the Taiwanese Air Force would wear, kind of at a kind of like a little bit of banter towards the Chinese. They always compare President Xi Jinping to Winnie the Pooh, right? So air and naval incursions, they're always testing about, kind of, drilling around Taiwan, constantly putting the Taiwanese at on their heels, on their toes, I guess you would say, making them nervous. All right, so let's look at the next slide. Cyber warfare and intellectual property. So China has invested in cyber capabilities for decades. These operations target intellectual property, defense contractors, and gather valuable information while avoiding open warfare. Unlike traditional military movements, cyber competition happens constantly and often quietly over time. This creates an ongoing risk and strategic pressure. And in regards to cyber warfare, it's kind of like an all hands on deck situation where private state-run corporations in China are also engaging in this activity, not just the PLA or their military, of course. So IP theft cases, civil military integration, as we saw in that previous slide. If I can go back here real quick, their J-35 looks almost exactly like our F-35. It looks about the same. And so that could be some sort of intellectual theft. All right. All right, so Belt and Road Initiative and economic influence. So the Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013, expands China's influence through infrastructure projects across multiple continents, ports, railways, and energy projects built long-term economic relationships. Although presented as development assistance to these other countries, some projects create debt, dependence, and political influence. Certain ports may also have strategic value in the future. This shows that China's competition with the United States is global, not limited to Asia. All right, so if you look at this map right here on the top right, this is going to show that overland route of the Belt and Road Initiative, and then also the maritime version, which is the shipping lanes. All right. I include this image down here of Africa. When I was stationed, or when I was deployed to East Africa, that's something you would see all the time. Would be Chinese workers, construction workers, Chinese companies building infrastructure in that area of East Africa, trying to spread their influence. All right, so debt leverage. These countries, they cannot pay. They cannot pay for all this infrastructure building to China. So China ultimately takes the ownership of the area, takes the land from them, expanding in that way. And then down here, we have identified locations of People's Liberation Army interest. All right, so operational, you can see they're operating down in this area right here, Djibouti, East Africa. And then this is some areas that interest them, which can also be associated most likely with the Belt and Road Initiative. All right, so gray zone strategy is one of the ones that are in the news quite often. China often operates in the space between peace and war, maritime militia activity, Coast Guard patrols near disputed islands, and land reclamation projects in the South China Sea are an example. So if you look down here, we have an image of them building an island from scratch, kind of expanding their coastline, I guess you would say, instead of having that international water, expanding that area. So these actions are designed to avoid triggering a military response while slowly changing the situation on the ground, changing the map. Gray zone tactics make deterrence difficult. They apply pressure without clearly crossing the line, allowing China to gain gradual advantages over time. And this is stressing out, different countries in the region, specifically the Philippines and other nations in that area. So maritime militia, Coast Guard pressure. You see in the news quite often, Chinese Coast Guard bullying like Filipino fishing ships, things of that nature, cyber intrusions, and they don't necessarily cross that red line, but enough to cause a disturbance. And you can see right here, this is going to be an image of the Chinese flag for the Navy, the naval flag. All right, so why China is the highest threat compared to other countries like Russia. All right, so other countries pose serious threats. Russia has strong military capabilities, but lacks similar economic strength. Iran and North Korea rely mostly on asymmetrical tactics. However, China, they stand apart because they combine, as mentioned before, economic power, advanced military modernization, cyber capabilities, and political influence at scale. It can compete. They can compete directly as a peer, while others use indirect strategies. China does not rely on one method. It competes across all domains at the same time, as we've already mentioned multiple times with their global influence. So only true competitor, full spectrum integration, long-term planning, escalation capability, and global reach. And I thought this was a cool political cartoon to kind of display that Chinese grasp on that global influence. All right, so conclusion here. So China represents the most complete and long-term challenge to U.S. national security today. Its rise has been intentional, it has been organized and connected across economic, military, and political areas. This competition will not likely be decided by only one major battle. It will be ongoing, it'll be multidimensional, multifaceted. As discussed in the paper that I wrote, China's ability to combine pure-level military power with steady gray zone pressure makes it the most significant strategy competitor facing the United States. For these reasons, China should be understood as a long-term and enduring challenge shaping the future security environment. All right. So strategic patience, sustained rivalry, symmetrical and asymmetrical fusion, and that integrated competition. And here on this last page, you can see this is my bibliography. This is also included in its entirety in my research paper that I included with this PowerPoint. Also, too, a lot of these images were either from government sources, such as the Department of Defense 2025 Annual Report to Congress about China, or they were from Google Images open source, or open source intelligence, OSINT. Anyways, thank you for watching my presentation. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much.